On today's episode of Locked On 76ers, Keith and I discuss why the loss to the Miami Heat was a bad one for the 76ers. Now, two in a row coming off the All-Star break and win over Memphis, Boston, and Miami back to back. What's going on with the Sixers? We'll dive into it next right here, Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome, you are Locked On 76ers. I'm Devon Givens from 97.5 The Fanatic Radio in Philadelphia, alongside my co-host Keith Pompey from the Sixers Inquirer.com, Sixers beat writer. What's happening, Keith?
What's good, D? How you doing, man?
Doing all right, man. We got to thank everybody for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On 76ers is free and available on all platforms, including right here on YouTube at Locked On 76ers. Keith, Sixers fall to the Miami Heat by 2, 101-99. Another close one, another gut punch in this game as they fall to the Miami Heat. We'll dive into what happened specifically, what went down in this game that really stood out to you and I, and of course, get the listeners' thoughts later on social media and however they want to get in touch with us. We'll look ahead as they take on the Miami Heat again on Wednesday, and also just talk about what this means right now as far as the standings go, of where they need to be in order to remain in the top three for the Eastern Conference playoffs. But Keith, 101-99, man, they fall in this one. And it was another one that you looked at, that self-inflicted wounds once again, why they have to clean up some of this mess. When they lose these types of games, the same stuff typically stands out. Turnovers, high turnover game, missing three-point shots, not closing out on their defenders on the three-point end, things of that nature. What really stood out to you on this one? What were your observations of how they lost this game?
I mean, basically, the observations to me were the turnovers. They had 20 turnovers, which led to 22 points, by the Heat. I felt like Jimmy Butler was by far the best player on the floor. I mean, I know Joel had his points, but it just seemed like when clutch time came, Jimmy Butler was the guy who stepped up. But also, the thing that got me was the fourth quarter on how poorly the Sixers played. In the fourth quarter, the Sixers opened the quarter by missing 9 shots and having 3 turnovers before Embiid hit a 15-foot pull-up jumper with 6:50 to play, right, in the game, right? I mean, that's bad. And then they ended the game just as poorly as they began it. Like, Embiid made 11-foot fadeaway jumper to close the gap to 1 point with 3:01 left, right? However, the Sixers missed their final 5 shots and committed 2 turnovers down that stretch. I mean, so it was bad, man. It was like, when you think of teams who are championship caliber teams and you think of how they close out games and stuff like that, they typically, pick up things down the stretch, not crumble. So the Sixers must correct this if they expect to make a deep postseason run, D.
So as you talked about the 5 and 3 for me specifically in succession really bothered me in the moment and still do. It was the shot clock violation that they had. James Harden, albeit hustling for a loose ball as the Sixers got another opportunity there, he falls along the sideline. And while it wasn't really his fault, as he's falling, he's looking for the official to bail him out and thinking he's going to get that call, which veterans typically do. They think they're going to get the call from the official. He's knocked over, and he lands on the sideline. And as a result, they don't call it. They simply call him out of bounds because he's laying on the sideline, and him not trying to throw the ball into a teammate. That is another bad possession. And then Bam Adebayo blocks Joel Embiid on the shot right there also. So that's 3 consecutive possessions in a row that they came up short. And 2 of them specifically were the self-inflicted ones. James Harden could have at least tried to throw the basketball in. Instead, he was looking for the official to, again, bail him out as he was falling out of bounds instead of throwing and locating. And as I was looking at it, to his right was Tobias Harris, who had a poor game. To his right was Tobias Harris, and he didn't throw him the basketball. And he could have at least tried to lob it up, try to get it over the arms of Jimmy Butler before he's falling out. He could have thrown it along the floor to allow Tobias Harris to pick the ball up and make a decision of what to do from there. And he didn't. So those right there, man, were three crucial plays for the Sixers, as both teams, as you mentioned, they were right there in it, but neither team was scoring. There was a lid on the basket for both teams, and the Sixers had three opportunities where they couldn't even get a shot off. Two air balls from three-point range as well on that one, because it was the Tobias Harris three-pointer that was an air ball, and then there was the Joel Embiid one where it wound up being a shot clock violation. Just poor execution down the stretch, and that cannot happen, to your point. As a playoff team that has high aspirations, those things can't happen.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I mean, it can. It was bad, and the thing is, like, again, you look at it and you see these close wins, and people are saying, I mean, close outcomes, and people are like, oh, they were right there. No, they weren't. I mean, okay, they probably were on this one, but this Miami team isn't that good, y'all. I mean, they're not. Like, I mean, we're looking at it, and we're talking about two teams, the last two, where guys didn't really play well. Bam Adebayo, 4 for 14, right? 5 turnovers. Tyler Hero, one of the best 6 men. Wasn't he 6 man of the year last year, right? A sharp shooting 3-point specialist. 3 for 13 from the field, 2 for 9. Gabe Vincent, a guy who, he normally gets the best of the 76ers. He shot 4 for 8 overall, but he was 4 for 8 for 3, but 5 for 12 overall. So when you look at that, if you're like Miami, you're saying to yourself, man, I can't believe we walked out of here with a victory. Okay. So, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where I'm looking at it like 2 games in a row where the opposing team played poorly and the Sixers still couldn't take advantage and win. And not only that, both of these games were at home where you have the home court of, you needed them. You got the advantage, yada, yada. Nah, it was bad. 2 bad displays.
Yeah, 2 back-to-back losses, close in terms of 5 points in total in those losses. 3 against the Boston Celtics with the game winner from Jason Tatum. 2 points against the Miami Heat as Jimmy Butler gives them the lead, 199. Then he splits a pair of free throws down the stretch, and the Sixers get a good look, Keith. I thought that was a good look. I know a lot of people felt that Joel Embiid should have taken the shot there over 2 defenders as he turned into the lane. I thought he made the right basketball play on that one. He had a high turnover night, 6 turnovers, bad possessions that he had on that play. That was a good look. I'll live with that one every day of the week, with James Harden shooting from the top of the key with the game in his hands. So didn't have a problem with that. But another tough loss. And I'll say this, when we've talked about them and they're showing that they can win close games the other way, and they've done that. They've been pretty good with their execution beforehand. These last 2 games against Boston and here against Miami on Monday night, not so much, not much of the same in that category. When we come back, we got to get into some of the other things. Tyrese Maxey played well, fouls out of the game. Why I thought Doc Rivers and the coaching staff made the wrong decision, we'll see what Keith was, of putting PJ Tucker in the game for the Sixers at 3:21 to play, just 3 points. We'll get into that next, right here, Locked On 76ers. But I got to tell you, as we come off a tough loss like that last night, I have a radio show to do. I'm amped up. I'm ticked off. I need something to eat, and I don't want to just go and grab a candy bar late at night like that. I was looking for something that was also, don't have a lot of fat and calories, and it was delicious. I wanted to make sure of that. And I went with the Built Bar. And it's healthy. It's tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious you won't think they're good for you. And they're perfect as we get into the month of March now, again, starting to hit spring. What makes Built Bar so good? Well, for starters, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. That is correct. Real chocolate. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. They only carry 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. You can always go to built.com to get these bars whenever you feel like you're in the need of a new supply to put in your kitchen. But you can also now go to Walmart or Sam's Club. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today. Walk to the pharmacy section and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're close to a Sam's Club, you can run in and grab yourself a 13-bar box with the hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can work yourself off with the anger sometimes, and you're not going to the bad candy bars. You're going to the Built Bar. You'll thank me later. Welcome back. Locked On 76ers. Thanks for making us your first listen. For your next, check out the Locked On Now podcast for nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. A light night in the association on Monday night. Schedule picks up again on Tuesday. But we're here talking about the 76ers, who are now 39-20, have dropped their last two, 39-21, have dropped their last 2 games. The Celtics last night also lost to the New York Knicks, so they remain 4 games back of the Celtics. They are tied with the Milwaukee Bucks now. The Celtics are in the Eastern Conference standings, so the Sixers trail both teams by 4 points. You have 2 games up on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference standings right now. Keith, 321. Tyrese Maxey played a very good game, bounced back 21 points, 23 points off the bench. He looked really good, and they missed him because he fouled out with 3 minutes and 21 seconds. He's not a guy that's really in foul trouble, so it was even surprising to me when he got to 4 personal fouls. That said, when he went out of the game, they really lost something. He's the only one with real speed, attacking the basket, getting to the cup, and finishing the way that he was on Monday night. I had a problem with Doc Rivers, Dan Burke, Dave Yeager, Sam Cassell, whoever made the call from the coaching staff to insert PJ Tucker in with 3 minutes and 21 seconds, down 3 points, and the Sixers and the Heat, neither team really able to get a shot to go, as we just talked about with those 3 possessions and 5 overall that you mentioned. I had a problem with them inserting PJ Tucker, who has been hitting his shots, who did hit a few shots on Monday night. But in that point of the game, you needed offense. The defense was happening. Both teams playing defense. You needed offense. I didn't like the PJ Tucker substitution for Tyrese Maxey at that point of the game.
Yeah, now actually the substitution you're talking about, because remember, that's when Maxey fouled out.
Yes.
So Harris actually came in for him, but Tucker came in for Harris a couple minutes earlier when they were down 2. So you know what I mean? I understand what you're saying, but
yeah, he needed to be off the floor. They needed somebody else then.
Yeah. I mean, you needed somebody. I mean, and again, I guess Doc was looking at it like, hey, here's a guy who has 8 points, a guy who's doing what he's doing. He's playing well. Maybe he will spark us. But, you're right, man. It became real sloppy. Like, I mean, it's to a point where if they're going to play like that and they're not making shots, I mean, why not go with Shake Milton in that instance or someone like that? I mean, if you need somebody that's known to be a scorer, knowing who's going to put it up, because there was no defense being played. It was just a matter of whoever can make a layup. You know what I'm saying? It was like whoever can make a layup. And Jimmy Butler was the one who was making them. But outside of that, yeah, I get you. I understand what you're saying, because it essentially Tobias wasn't doing anything at that particular time. It was a 2-man game. They just had 2 guys out there. Like Tobias wasn't doing anything. Melton wasn't doing anything. Maxey fouled out, and it was all about Harden and Embiid, and they didn't have any other options. So I'm with you.
Yeah, on that one, I needed someone else in the game at that point. As good as PJ Tucker has been knocking down the shots as the game is flowing, and in this case, when you need points at the end to make sure that you keep yourself in it, you need to make sure that you have somebody that can be able to not only create for himself, but just make a shot. If the ball found him, And while PJ Tucker can do that, I don't see him or haven't seen him here with the 76ers where we're in the guts of the game, where points are needed, the ball swings to him, and he's taking a shot. He's typically looking to make a quick screen, drop the ball off, hand it off to somebody else to give them an opportunity. There's nothing wrong with that. But right there for what they needed during those final 3 minutes, that point of the game, the ball needed to be in someone else's hands. They needed another offensive player on the floor at that point. It's just where I am. That's just how I felt. And it played out the way that it did, where PJ Tucker, I don't even remember him doing anything on the offensive end, at least touching the ball and swinging the ball to anyone. And that's part of the problem there when we look at how this one played out against the Miami Heat. So tough one again for the Sixers, tough things there for Doc Rivers in the clutch. And even when we look at how things played out against the Boston Celtics on Saturday, where we talked about as good of a defender as DeAnthony Melton was, put him on Jaylen Brown, don't have him on Jason Tatum for that final shot. I understand the speed coming from the backcourt and all of that, the length and what Tobias Harris was doing as a solid defensive player in that entire game against Jason Tatum. This is two things now for me in succession where I've questioned the coaching decisions on what they've done with some personnel moves there for the Sixers in these two games. So
let me say something. I'm sorry. Let me add to this. And this is something that people need to pay attention to, because as much as the 76ers have been successful before these two games, right? The stretch. If you notice, there was a time when PJ Tucker was getting benched.
Playing like 15 minutes, right?
Yep, he was getting benched in the fourth.
Look, Keith, let me jump in as you say that. I was looking at PJ Tucker because I didn't go to the game last night. You were there. From the TV angle, there was a time where I believe they were focused on Doc Rivers on the sideline talking to someone. And in the background, it was in the fourth quarter. I could see PJ Tucker sitting on the bench. He had a towel on his head and all that stuff. He's picking at his nails. He's just sitting there picking at his nails because, like normal, he's not getting back in the game. You know what I'm saying? He's not getting back in the game. And not to say that he's picking there because he's bored, and guys sit there and they pick at their nails all the time on the bench. We've seen with fingernail clippers, all that stuff. But he's sitting there and he's interested in the game, and it was a dead ball. I think it was free throws. But he's sitting there like that. I think he kind of figured he wasn't getting back in the game at that point. And I just wanted to jump in there and toss that in there as you say that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it just tells you where they've gone, because it got to a point where PJ barely played in the fourth, or he played in the beginning of the fourth, and then he sat down, like you said. And then there was times where they had Matisse out there closing games out. They had other people, George Niang in there closing things out. And now you no longer have Matisse, right? And then George Niang just been getting attacked. So with PJ, it's not like all of a sudden you're saying, okay, PJ improved drastically. It's more or less the other dudes aren't like coming through, or you don't have them. So that should tell you in a way, like, what's happening with this team. You know what I mean? Like, again, close games. But it just seems like the 76ers are scrambling a little bit right about now. You know, you have Melton struggling. You have George Niang struggling. And Matisse isn't there anymore. So it's kind of like they're still trying to figure out who they're going to close out with. You know? So, you know, it's just a lot. This team is going through a lot of changes. This is the time where they should be gelling, bonding, and just going on, like just doing it, but it just getting reps. But it just seems like they're still trying to figure things out, man.
Well, they may have a few other things that they're going to have to figure out along the way, because they're going to be on the road for the month of March 12 times. So they have to figure out the bonding part there and make sure that they are able to identify some things with this basketball team down the stretch. And it's tough, man, because you talk about a team that is, again, still 18 games over 500, and we know one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. But the way they've lost these two games and the fashion that they lost them, you know, it makes it a lot worse. We know they're good. It's just a matter of how good are they when these big type of moments step up for the Philadelphia 76ers. And our final one, we'll talk about a former Sixer that was released, Keith, and a lot of Sixer fans had their eye on him, but maybe it might be too late because you picked up center already on the market. We'll tell you who that is next on the other side, right here on Locked On 76ers. And now we need to talk about, guys looking, hey, we're talking about, hey, maybe go out there and acquire some late additions to the team, some late adds to your roster. Well, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for a small business. Now, this is a big business, and a player coming in late is a potential hire to help out. It is a high stakes addition, maybe. Well, you want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Then add your job. Look at the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring, to let the people know that you're really interested in finding the type of people that they believe they are looking for the jobs themselves, as they are identifying you and your business. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. Like when Keith goes on the road, I need to hire someone for him, this personal assistant, to make sure he's good because he has so much stuff to do on the road. And that's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. And when I do hire that person to make sure Keith is okay on the road trips, I go to LinkedIn Jobs. They help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we do pay people when I hire these people for Keith Pompey on the road. We do pay. We don't pay much, but we do pay. So just letting you know. You just want to travel, we got you. That's your pay right there. We pay for your travel. That's it. And your lodging. You can stay somewhere, and we make sure you got a gig in a hotel. All right, Keith. A couple of guys that might be looking for jobs as Sixer fans, as we kind of transition just to the market of the buyout. It is March. We're approaching March, and players have to be released and available for a roster spot in the playoff team and to play in the playoffs, having to be released already. We've already talked about Will Barton, but the former Sixer, number 6 overall pick during their rebuild, Nerlens Noel, he and his representation, they reached an agreement on a buyout with the Detroit Pistons. He becomes available. Can you explain to people who were interested in Nerlens Noel of where they are right now with Dwayne Dedmon, why he hasn't played, and also is it possible for them to still look at Nerlens Noel but maybe have to let go of Dwayne Dedmon or let go of some other player on the roster to make him fit for him to be eligible for the playoffs? How does this whole thing work out?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I mean, the Sixers still have some money to be able to go out there and get someone in the buyout market, right? But the thing is, right about now, and you're right, they would have to waive a player.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right about now, if you already have 3 centers on your roster, and if you get Nerlens, you're going to have 4 centers, unless you just say, hey, Dwayne or someone else, Paul Reed or Montrezl Harrell, like, hey, y'all got to go, right? But with that, it looks kind of sort of like, it's a bad situation because Dwayne hasn't played. I feel like if Dwayne played and if he wasn't injured, right now he's dealing with a hip tightness, hip soreness. He injured his hip at practice. I believe it was the practice right before they went to the game before the All-Star break. So that's when he hurt himself. But it's kind of like, it's weird now because people are looking at it like, yo, we were all excited about Dwayne Dedmon, but Nerlens was the guy we always wanted, right? And now all of a sudden you got Dwayne and he can't play, and now Nerlens becomes available. And then if you're the Sixers, it's kind of like, do you want to get rid of Dwayne? Like, because then it looks like they really messed this one up. Like, you went out there and got a guy who was hurt, but even though they saying he got hurt at practice, but you got a guy that was hurt, and now all of a sudden we don't have a spot for Nerlens Noel. I mean, and like, I hate to say it, but this is the stuff that used to happen to him back in the day. It was always something crazy, But again, I think that Dwayne can be serviceable. I do, but he just has to get out there and perform. He just has to, because is he the rim protector that Nerlens Noel is? No. And is he probably the rebounder that Nerlens is? No. Right. But at the same time, he's not as good as Nerlens in the rim protection, but he's a way better offensive player than Nerlens.
Right.
So you get the best of both worlds from him. But now here's the thing about the Will Barton thing. Like, it's the same thing. They would have to release somebody.
Yeah.
But you have to have somebody signed by tomorrow.
By March 1st.
March 1st, for that person to be on your roster. And the way the Sixers played, not able to get any shots, the way that they're getting out rebounded and out hustled, they need to add something else to this roster. Because right now, I don't know, man. And I know Doc said there's only one game. He said that before the last game. But it just seems like this team doesn't have what it takes to win a championship in the intangible part. So they need to add something.
So what are, real fast, you just explained all of that, but what are their options of, is Dwayne Dedmon, is he the only one that they can really look at to release? And as far
they can
as
release anybody,
cap hits and stuff like that with Paul Reed, Montrezl Harrell.
Well, the thing is, I think the thing is, like, not having this in front of me, but when you look at it, like, see, a lot of people may say, get rid of Furkan Korkmaz.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, right?
But
he makes $5 million.
Huh?
He makes $5 million.
Well, yeah, but it's not really what he makes this season. It's what he's making next season. Because the thing is, you don't want to, when the buyout come, like, you got to negotiate. But if it's somebody who is like, basically, this is like their last year, like a Paul Reed, a Shake Milton, a Montrezl Harrell, like guys like that, you can just say, hey, look, we're cutting your losses. Other people, you gotta, try to negotiate things and stuff like that. But then you still probably may, and like, if it's me, if I'm Furkan Korkmaz and I know I'm not playing, I know the 76ers want to waive me to get another player, I'm just gonna be like, yo, y'all gotta cut me. I want my money.
Buy me out.
I ain't even saying
just
buy
a straight up cut.
I'm saying you gotta straight up cut me, because in a buyout, what you're doing is, in a buyout, you're saying, okay, I'll walk in order for you. I mean, but I'm gonna take less money in a buyout, right? Now, here's the deal with that. Typically, for a guy like Kevin Love, he's in a situation where he knew he wanted to go to Miami, where he was going to start. Because believe me, these agents talk to these teams way before it happens. But as long as he was with Cleveland, he was riding the bench. So what happens is, you're like, oh yeah, buy me out of my contract for that, right? But if you're sitting the bench and you don't have a lot of other options, right? It's kind of sort of like, well, nah, I'm not leaving less money on the table. You cut me, and then we good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I need that 5 point whatever it is next year, just in case I'm not in the league. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So yeah, they can do whatever they want, but it's just a matter of,
I'm curious to see if they do anything, because you're talking about Nerlens again, and then you look at the Will Barton part, where at least there's a guy who can score a little bit. Defensively, he gives you nothing. He can score a little bit, and maybe that'll help to your bench where you're not getting anything from right now. Shake Milton, Daniel House, Furkan Korkmaz, any of those wing players and guards, you're getting nothing. The only one that you're getting something from is, in fact, Tyrese Maxey, and I don't know that can be enough as far as your bench goes, and when the scoring comes into play. So Appreciate the breakdown, man. Thanks, everybody, for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day. On our next episode, we'll preview again Game 2 against the Miami Heat as the Sixers now travel to Miami-Dade Arena. Weird name since they changed it. Miami-Dade. It is wow. Yeah, Miami-Dade Arena. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA, Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Keith, can you let the good folks know where they can find us, man?
Like my man D just said, wherever you get your podcast, you can get this podcast. But when you go to our YouTube channel, make sure you click on the Liberty Bell, and then you become a new subscriber, and you will get alerts whenever we have podcasts. Also, do yourself a favor tonight and listen to my man D from 6 to 10 p.m. on 97.5 FM, right? The Divine Giving Show. Also, you can follow my man D on Twitter at DivineG975. You can follow me on Twitter at Pompey on Sixers, and you can read my stuff in the Philadelphia Inquirer.com.
All right, man. Well, we'll catch you on the road as you end up in, again, Miami-Dade Arena. Have fun in Miami. That should be fun.
Yeah, it should be. We'll see. We'll see.
It better be.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right, bro.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Thanks, Keith.
All right, peace.